Hello and welcome to TheoTrade. My name is Doc Severson and this is the Theo Night Report for Monday, October 10th. Well, today was a bank holiday and we had very little volume. There's very little going on. This is going to start to heat up though this week as we have earnings starting after hours today with Alcoa. And it starts to heat up throughout the week as we get into airlines like Delta, and then eventually some of the big banks like JP Morgan, Wells Fargo, Citigroup. And then in between there we have the FOMC minutes, which are probably going to be the market-moving economic event. Now, sprinkled throughout here, we have a little bit of Fed speak here and there. But really, over the course of the last week or so, we've had tremendous amounts of Fed speak, but very little movement from that. And I think this market is smart enough to know that really the Fed is not going to raise rates in November, but we're starting to see a much larger case for a rate hike come December. You can see this if we go out to the Fed watch. For 2nd of November, there is really zero chance, even though it shows a 10% chance of a potential rate hike. Really, honestly, there is zero chance that the Fed is going to be hiking rates just a couple of days before the major election. But if we go out to 14 December, we will have had the benefit of seeing 2 additional jobs reports at that point for November and the beginning of December. And right now the market's printing in about almost a 50% chance that we are going to be hiking rates by the end of the year. Now, I mentioned earlier that this was a very low volume day, so we didn't even get to 1 million contracts on the S&P E-minis. So you can kind of see that as we go back here, the line that I'm looking at is about at this level here, right? And so you can go back and see that we had, some very low volume days in mid-August for that, and some holiday days that were close to the Memorial Day holiday, as well as Easter Friday. Nothing as low as the volume typically in between Christmas and New Year's, though. But if you go all the way back to this day a year ago, you can see that this bank holiday does make a difference in terms of the volume that's out there. So we can see that we're not exactly bucking the trend here, and you can see that the volume does increase throughout the weeks. So the rest of this week should start to ramp up in volume as we get to the Fed minutes, and especially as we get to the earnings at the end of this week. But the thing that I'd like to end on here and really point out to you is expect movement literally any day now. Because we have all 3 time frames here, the monthly, weekly, and the daily charts that have a high degree of energy. And what I'm looking at is the yellow study here, which is what we call the fractal energy. So the way to interpret that is a low value means that we've seen an awful lot of trending and it's therefore more likely to move into consolidation. Conversely though, when we see a high value like this, it has been consolidating and it's likely to move into trending. Well, guess what happens when you have all 3 of these show consolidation and likely to move into trending? This is where the big moves come from. So I think what we need to watch for, instead of just looking in the crystal ball and saying, well, this is going to happen or that's going to happen, the simplest way that we can handle this is really just to watch these trend lines here. Watch the trend lines and watch for a breakout from one of these. We are getting down to the apex of this triangle pattern, which has been in play for the last few weeks. And the closer it gets to the apex of this, the more likely we're going to get a violent breakout either to the upside or to the downside from here. My feeling is that if the initial move goes to the downside, this is going to create more of a slingshot movement, especially as the election more than likely brings certainty one way or the other. We're going to have certainty by the 2nd week in November. But conversely, if the initial breakout is to the upside, I just don't know that it's going to have enough power or the same amount of power as a pullback would create. Think about how the price has been acting for the better part of this year. Pullbacks are being bought, but new highs are not being bought. So pullbacks are being bought, but new highs are not being bought. Pullbacks are being bought right now. New highs are not. So if we do break out to the upside, I just don't see it as being a very long-lasting move. I think a stronger move would actually come on a downside move first to create more of that slingshot type of movement back up to the upside. As always, every day in the market is unique and the market is free to do what it wants to. And all we're looking at from these charts perspective is what's likely to happen next. But these high degrees of consolidation will lead to movement very, very soon. We just have to be patient for that to occur and then just play along with that trend. That's it for today's report. Thanks for listening, folks. We'll see you tomorrow.